AM 590 KXSP Omaha's ESPN Radio. Pull them belts tight, because it's time for the front stretch. Presented by Kosiski Auto Parts at 50th and I Street.
Welcome one and welcome all to another great edition of The Front Stretch here on AM 590 Omaha's ESPN Radio, presented by Kosiski Auto Parts. 51st and I Street is where you go to get quality used parts at an affordable price. You give them a call at 731-4592. Let them know your make and model and what part you need to have replaced, whether it be a rim, a fender, a battery, an alternator, a radiator, whatever it is. I'm sure that they have it. Give them a call and let them know what you need. They'll give you a price. Head out to the salvage yard, pull the part off of the car, get it ready for you. All you gotta do is swing by, pick up the part, put it on your car, and you're back on the car, on the road in no time. That's Kosiski Auto Parts, 51st and I Street. We're gonna take a quick break and be right back as we're gonna start our interview with Scott Bloomquist as a part of the Legends of the Dirt series here on AM 590 Omaha's ESPN Radio.
The Silver Dollar Nationals are returning to I-80 Speedway on July 18th, 19th, and 20th. Don't miss the nation's top USMTS, MLRA, and Lucas Oil dirt late model racers as they compete at Nebraska's fastest track. Come watch the nation's best dirt track racers compete for a $27,000 to win payout. Ticket prices and packages at 402-342-3453. The third annual Silver Dollar Nationals at I-80 Speedway, July 18th, 19th, and 20th.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278. Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
This is the Front Stretch on AM 590, powered by Kosiski Auto Parts. Quality used parts at an affordable price. Now, back to the Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, presented by Kosiski Auto Parts. 51st and I Street is where you can go to get quality used parts at an affordable price. Team PRP is going to make sure you've got the right part on your car to get you back on the road in full working order. 731-4592 is where you can call to go ahead and get yourself a head start. Give them a call, let them know your make and model and what you need, what part you need to get your car or truck back on the road. They're going to head out to their yard and they're going to pull it off the car for you. Make sure it's in good working condition. You swing by 51st and I Street, pick up the part, and you're all set to go. Continuing our Legends of the Dirt series, we're now joined by probably one of the most legendary active drivers, Scott Bloomquist, joining us for our Legends of the Dirt series. Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. We work every day, but we can take time anytime.
That's awesome. I do appreciate it. I've been hounding you pretty bad and rearranging schedules, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised you took my phone call, but like I said, I really appreciate it, and let's just start off with the easiest and right from the beginning. Just start off from the beginning. What got you started in dirt track racing? I know your dad had kind of dabbled in it a little bit and then gave you his car, but was there more to it than that, or was it just simply you took over when Dad left off and never looked back?
Actually, my dad flew. We live in California, and my dad flew for Air California and just flew up and down the coast, and made just enough money that needed some write-offs, and just kind of started a race business that he was going to do with him driving, and he had a friend that he flew with that dirt track raced, and ended up just talking to him enough, and finally got enough of a bug and decided, he'd drag raced a little bit when he was a kid, and just always liked racing, so he thought he might like to try that. Got him a car, an older used car, and worked on it, and actually built the engine himself, got it done, and took it out. And after one time out, unless you've met my dad, he doesn't necessarily you won't connect to this too much until you see his toys. But he's the guy that if you leave your car at his place, when you come back, it's waxed because everything has to be perfect. And when he got out and ran his first night with the dirt track car, it just wasn't his cup of tea. Just mud flying. The lighting at the racetrack wasn't very good. Everybody running into each other, and it just wasn't his deal. And after that night, he said that was it. He was done. And that's when he said to me, he said, now if you want to try this next week, and try driving, he said, we maybe do that, but I'm done. And I said, well, sure.
And how old were you when you took over driving for him?
16. I ran my first race and did fairly well and enjoyed it. And it made him get a little bit more enthused. And so we raced, probably 6, 7 races that year because that was the rest of that season. And at the last race, we ended up getting turned by someone and came to a stop on the back chute about halfway down, and the track was so dark, and we had a black car, and the leader come around, and he saw me, but the guy in second was right on him, and when the leader swerved to miss me, the guy in second didn't see me and hit me head on hard as you could be hit. Totaled that car, and that was the kind of the moment of truth, whether you go on and either get better equipment and continue, or just say that's enough. And he had enough interest, and so did I, that we continued from there and got a decent car and came back the next season and did quite well. And we raced together for 2 more years in California, and then I left California after AirCal got bought out from American Airlines. My dad wanted to find a piece of property to retire on, and that was in Tennessee. So that's where racing was big, and I was keeping up with racing back here. That's, NDRA was based out of Kingsport, and I kept reading about 10,000 win races around my area here, Bulls Gap, Newport, Townsville, just, Atomic, a lot of racetracks, and then we flew back and went to Log Cabin Speedway for the big event that Donnie Moran won when he was real young, and I had the interest, had the bug, but he decided he'd had enough and worked a deal out with me to move here on this property and take care of it and work for him and work off. And he gave me a price. I basically paid him for everything, and even traded him my 57 Chevy I built when I was a kid. And it's not been a lot of giving, but it made me learn how to earn things, and it's probably been the best thing for me. But yeah, that's where it started. Once I got to Tennessee, just raced locally and then started traveling, and the rest is history.
Scott, this is Buddy Ray here on the front stretch. When you were in that head-on collision, how long of a time span was there when you said, okay, is this something where I really, really want to do? I mean, eventually, obviously you turned out to where you continued racing, but how long was that decision process? I mean, a lot of guys, they get in a head-on wreck and they're done. I mean, they see the money.
Well, a lot of my competition, made comments. Even my dad's friends said, well, that'll be the turning point. That they thought that'd be it. The car at that time, even though it was a late model, was a stock front clip, Camaro, real heavy car. But I mean, it was a tremendous hit, but when you're young, that stuff doesn't faze you. And I probably weighed 170 pounds then, or 65 pounds then, and lighter drivers, hits like that don't affect them as much. And it didn't faze me. People thought, oh, that kid won't want to get in a car ever again, but it didn't faze me. And he asked me if I was still into it, and I was. And he got on the case of getting us a better car, and it was all a tubular. Actually, it was the only Dillon car, which back then Dillon cars on pavement were big in the early 80s, and they'd never built a leaf spring car, and they ended up doing us a leaf spring dirt car, and we had a lot of success with that car. Got Rookie of the Year, Chula Vista Racetrack, and just, it ran good enough. Actually, the final race before I moved to Tennessee was the biggest event ever held in California, and that was at the track that I had my most experience at, and won the track championship when I was 18, and it paid $4,000 to win. We out-qualified the field by a second and a half and lapped the field twice, and I left for Tennessee the next week.
Good land. How many laps was that race?
It was too many for the competition.
Twice too many, I guess.
I think it was. Actually, that's a good question. I know it was 50 at least, but we were running alcohol. I think it might have been 100 lap and had a fuel stop.
Damn, you might have been running moonshine in that baby.
Yeah, it was stout. But we had actually, it was funny because I kept up with what was going on back east, and it was right after Charlie Schwartz built that wedge car that he won Pennsboro with, and I saw pictures of that, and I'm like, that's the smoke. That's what I need right there. And called Bullet and ordered a body. Well, when I got it, it was just flat sheets of metal and with circles cut out for the wheels and tires. And I was like, what? And I had to use some of my own imagination and to mount all this stuff and put a big spoiler and sideboards and all this stuff on it. And at that time, no one, obviously, it was pretty effective the way Schwartz ran it at Pennsboro for the Dirt Track World Championship. But again, out there, and no one had seen anything like it, and definitely was quite an edge. And I was with Firestone tires then, and we could run any size tire, and they just come out with some new sprint car stuff, and we had some wide 105-inch right rears and different things. It just all kind of fell into place. And after running so good at that event, that's when my dad hit me up and said, well, this stuff will never be worth more than it is today. And I was ready to sell it, or I needed to commit to moving here and staying on the property, and it wasn't a hard decision. I was ready, and I really wanted that. I decided that I enjoyed it. It was a challenge enough to me. That's one thing I can say about this sport. I don't know if there's anything I ever could have done that would have kept me entertained any more or any better than this has, because you'll never conquer it and cannot relax or cannot ever just think you've got it all figured out. Even if you finish a season winning tremendous amount of races, the next season starts, you don't know what you're in store for. And something that I've ever gotten bored with, that's for sure.
Hey, Scott, can you talk to us a little bit about the Team Zero cars? You've got quite a few Team Zero cars out there, and what got you into building the Team Zero cars or starting into that? Was it looking for a retirement place when you do decide to quit racing?
You know, it actually wasn't anything about that when I started. It was more about trying to, there were so many, I was kind of a one-man band, and I'm traveling around. I got, the only one with a car like mine, and you had, Rocket probably was the biggest reason, because they had everyone, and everyone was communicating and talking and really just getting together, trying to be sure they could outrun me. We were running so good and dominated so much, and that's one thing that seems to happen. If you dominate too much, everybody seems to get together and start giving up secrets and information and pooling everything together, and it's something that nobody can stand watching. So, with Rocket, they had so many guys, and they were getting so many more people in their cars that were good racers, and they'd all go hot lap, and then they'd all huddle up, and they, after qualifying, they'd all talk, and that's, just everyone's communicating. And it just got to be really difficult to be able to compete when you're going against that big of a force that's communicating with each other with all kinds of information. I mean, even if it's just tire information at the track that night, for me to be able to run around and keep up with everything that they all could just get together and discuss, which I wasn't a part of, I started seeing that was going to be my downfall, and it was going to be really hard to compete that many competitive, talented guys that were all talking to each other. So I started out, and it was never about doing very many. Chris Madden was the first and had a tremendous amount of success, and but he mainly raced in the South, and but anytime he got or left my shop with a car, every time he left here, he went and just kicked ass with it, and more people were just thinking, can you get cars? And I thought about selling cars, but then I decided to take a step back and not open up just selling cars to anyone. I decided it was way more important to work with people that I trusted, that were trustworthy people, that I could keep at least a handle on what they did with the cars, if they ever wanted to sell them. Not to mention, try to just explain to them how important it was to keep what they learned from me to themselves. And that's probably been the most difficult thing that you can't even try to accomplish, because it's kind of like a secret. It's something that gets told to one person at a time, but secrets, there's no such thing. Not
in racing, not with as many people as find out.
Somebody might tell their wife who works with somebody.
Yeah, maybe.
It's that It's that insane.
I'm pretty new to the dirt track racing world. I've been a big NASCAR fan for well over a decade, but these guys in the studio with me now, Buddy Ray, Joe Kosiski, and Andrew Kosiski, have all brought me into this world, and that was the first thing I've noticed, is that there is no secrets in the world of dirt track racing, and there's a lot of rumors.
Well, there still are, believe me. There's some here in this building, but they're the only ones that were never told to one person.
Yeah. Yep.
And not even my employees.
Scott, talk about your switch from the number 18, which you ran for quite a while, pretty historic with that number, over to the 0. Talk about that switch and the thought process behind it.
It got to be to where so many, there got to be a lot of 18s out there. I asked Shannon Babb what made him choose his number, and when he said it was me, I take that as a big compliment. I mean, I look up to him as a great racer, but I just got to see so many cars. And even as much, I love Joe at Phase 2, and we worked together on decal stuff. And, I hand drew my flames and sent the patterns to him. But I didn't think far enough ahead to say, this is mine exclusively. And next thing I know, I see my flames on another guy's car at the racetrack. And just different things about cars. It's got really hard to separate myself and stand out. It's kind of funny, actually, that Fred Wagenhaus, that owned Action Collectibles, took me to China with him. And I got over there, and Francis who's the richest man in Hong Kong today, who he got all his cars through and did his business with. And when I got over there and met him, he said, 18, luckiest number in the world. And I thought, really? I said, I'm not going to let somebody say that without explaining it. So I said, explain. What's the deal? Why are you saying that? And he said, well, the 8 has a universal flow that never stops, making it the most powerful number. But when you put someone or something in front of it capable of being number 1, makes it the most powerful number. And there's nothing you can accomplish using the number 18. I thought, well, that's pretty cool, And I've always been pretty hard-headed kind of guy about swallowing stuff.
Really?
And, yeah. And I got to thinking about that, and I thought, I respect that. I mean, and actually I've heard things since. That's been a long time ago, and I've heard many things since then about Asian cultures and the number 18, and, it seems to be a very, very strong number. And I decided just to take it to another step, and I come up with the concept of the look the car has still today with the 0. And I thought, well, you know what? He's wrong. The most powerful number is a perfect circle, and that's the most powerful shape. And every cell, every planet, everything is made up of millions, billions, or trillions of zeros. And I decided to go with the perfect circle 0, still keep the 18s on the car from all the past merchandise we sold that had 18 on it. So, many people today, though, they're like, well, them 18s, which if they've been around long enough, they know. But there's a lot of new fans that don't know. But again, coming up with the design, and my first design had some thought to it. It was like the front of the car black, so they can't see you coming, and the back of the car white, so they have no excuse for running into you. Was my concept, with a perfect circle in the center, and then the triangles to help emphasize the change of colors, and did a lot of drawings, and I do the majority of my art stuff myself, and then if it needs to be carried further, I'll take it to professional. But that was the concept. Not to mention that me and Barry split up, and I took everything back home and felt like I was starting from ground zero again. No sponsors, just kind of took a step back and was like, all right, I'm just going back and keeping it in-house again and not sharing nothing again, and going back to actually what my roots were. When nobody, which it wasn't intentionally that I didn't talk to anyone, I just didn't see a reason to. I just stayed in my own world, did my own thing, and it worked, which today it's very difficult. But that's the way it used to work, I think, a lot more. You look at the days with Freddie and Purvis and Boggs and Swartz, and back when the rules, you could actually come up with some really unique ideas and show up at the track and you'd get to race them, because once the book was written for the season, that's what it was going to stay that season. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. And you come up with an idea that fits within the rules, and they can walk up and just wave their wand and say, "I don't like it, change it." So you get, that keeps us all operating in a tighter box. But anyway, that's pretty much the history of the number change, and it was kind of funny. Actually, everyone thought that me and Joe Boy with GRT Garrison were enemies, but it was funny, and I'd never even talked to him, and I got a phone call right when I did change the number, and he called me and said, "You can't change your number. You're number 18. I said, "No, I'm Scott Bloomquist." You must have forgot that part.
Talk about that a little bit, if you will. NASCAR's kind of doing this to where they're having some, I want to call it branding issues, to where, 15 years ago, it was the number 3 Goodwrench car, and it was the number 24 DuPont Chevrolet, and you could identify the car number with the sponsor with the driver. How hard was it for you to make that switch? And well, I guess, was it hard because you made that switch at a time when branding wasn't as big of an issue in racing?
Yeah, I did a number of other things when I did that, and it wasn't real popular with sponsors. The very first one, you can go back and look at the '97 Dream, and the car had no sponsors on it. I still had product sponsors and still had, a lot of people that would support me. And I really just decided all the cars with all the sponsors and that you can't read. Most cars, I spend a tremendous amount of time making sure that everything's legible on our cars, even on television from a distance. And, so many, and not to pick at anyone, but I can't read a thing on Billy Moyer's car. Nothing. Once I get so far from it. And so many others, the same thing. And I decided, you can't read that stuff anyway, especially with the multicolored stuff people were doing.
Is that a little bit of your dad coming out in you to wear a good clean car?
Clean, I just decided that, and actually at first it might have been a little arrogant, that the sponsors, if they want people to know that I'm running their products, they should identify them on the product and take ads out after I win races, which I was trying to actually promote them, having to take ads out, which gave me even more promotion. And everybody tolerated that approach, and it was just, I'd get calls. It's like, you ever going to put any names back on your car? And I just ain't sure yet. And I don't know yet. I'm just studying it myself. But what it was, if you'll turn that race, get a video of that race or tape or what CD of that race, you can see the whole field lined up to take the green for that race, and you only see one car, mine, because the rest just seem to have all this stuff that just make them blend in, and then all of a sudden there was one car that just was like, look, nothing like any of them, and your eyes just can't, like, what's up with that? Like, it looked like I belonged in a different class, whether it was one above or below. It wasn't an issue, but I just saying, I look at that, and I've looked back at that and seen it really did stand out. And then a lot of things that I do with my colors and the program on my car, we really try to focus on what things appear like on television and try to keep things very legible. And occasionally we'll miss it a little bit, but if we do, it's not on there more than another week or two yet. Sometimes we do, and we've got our own process here in the shop, and my friend employees, some of them kind of laugh at it, but if I can squint until I can almost not see and still read the decals on my car, I've accomplished something.
We got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back after this as we continue our Legends of the Dirt series with Scott Bloomquist. It's the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
This is Andrew from Kosiski Auto Parts. Kosiski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke-down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Kosiski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kosiski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kosiski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
The Silver Dollar Nationals are returning to I-80 Speedway on July 18th, 19th, and 20th. Don't miss the nation's top USMTS, MLRA, and Lucas Oil dirt late model racers as they compete at Nebraska's fastest track. Come watch the nation's best dirt track racers compete for a $27,000 to win payout. Ticket prices and packages at 402-342-3453. The third annual Silver Dollar Nationals at I-80 Speedway, July 18th, 19th, and 20th.
You're listening to The Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio. Brought to you by Kosiski Auto Parts and Team PRP. Premium recycled parts at an affordable price.
Welcome back to The Front Stretch, presented by Kosiski Auto Parts, 51st and I Street. We continue our conversation with Scott Bloomquist as a part of the Legends of the Dirt series.
If you run fifth in a race behind 4 other Bloomquist cars, are you upset about that? Are you happy that you've got it figured out that you have 4 guys that can beat you in your own car? Or do you just want to win every single race behind those guys? I mean, kind of weird. Just thinking back to the Knoxville Nationals, a lot of us were there, and it was like, I think about 4 of your cars were in almost the top 5, top 6. I mean, what kind of feelings that when you run behind another Bloomquist car?
It doesn't bother me too much, with the people that I have in my cars, or that are in my cars. I don't have them in there. It ended up in our stuff. When they communicate with me and I have a good idea of the things they're doing, and I choose to communicate back, and sometimes knowing everything that they're going to do, and most of the time doing the safe thing, the thing that I've won with before, the thing that I've told them what I've won with before. Them just doing that is enough to win the race. And we're constantly looking and searching and testing and trying things. And sometimes things you learn testing you think will apply at a lot of other places, and they might just apply to the place you tested at. And it depends on the circumstances is what I'm getting at. If I'd much rather be outrun by a car of mine than someone else's, because if it's one of mine, I can eliminate 90% of the things that outrun me. And if it's another brand, I don't know where to begin. You follow me? Mm-hmm. I don't really, if it's another brand chassis and they run different shocks and and I have no idea, the different setups that they've ever run or might be running, and I don't have the ability to communicate with them. And if I did, they'd probably lie anyway. And you can just eliminate and get your brain at a peaceful place again to where, well, we know it's not the chassis. We know it's not the brand of shock. We know it's not this. We know it's not that. It's just a process of elimination that allows you to eliminate a lot more things.
Are you going to run the Lucas Oil Series this year? Will we see you at I-80 Speedway during the Silver Dollar Nationals again? What's your focus on the upcoming season?
Yeah. We're looking at running, pretty much the same schedule as last year. We'll definitely be at I-80. I really enjoyed coming out there. It kind of messed up my record. I got a 70% win ratio for my first visit to a racetrack, and we just got been 100 laps. I don't know if we might have had a shot at it, but
you've been awful close.
We learned enough, and Brian Burkhofer runs really well, and he unloaded fast, and I think all of us. He runs on those tires and on that dirt. But I love the racetrack and look forward to coming back, and really think we learned enough that where we'll be starting from next year, we'll be able to get that a little bit more we may need. Hopefully we won't get too smart and end up worse.
Yeah, same tire rule. Is that going to bother you any, Scott, or same tire rule?
No, I don't think that was any issue at all. I don't have any problem with that. And I think it worked out quite well. And I know I talked to a couple of drivers that run that tire rule on a regular basis, and thought that it would make them more competitive with us. But I told them, I said, you're gonna be surprised when this race is over and who's the top 5 are.
The cream comes to the top all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what tire.
Yeah.
And it just really, it doesn't matter. There was a little bit of difference, but we come up against so many things that we have to make quick decisions on. It's not going to take any of us long, and the ones that might take a little longer, they've got others to talk to, and usually, again, like you said, the cream will always rise.
Is there a track? I mean, all around the country you have raced. Is there a track that you have a particular enjoy a certain amount because it fits your driving style? Is there one track that every time you put it on your schedule because you just love going there?
I'm not saying it fits my driving style. I love Knoxville, Iowa, because it is probably one of the most challenging and technical racetracks. You better be handling and better have your stuff right there to win. We're the only two-time winner as of yet, but still, and have been close other times, but it doesn't get any easier. And throughout that race, caution, change the racetrack, or change your tires even, to where you just never know what's going to happen off of a caution. It's quite bizarre, really, from the driver's seat. You ain't got a clue what may happen, and don't really know why it happens, and all of a sudden yours can't hit the ground and somebody else can, and they just go on by and fly by, and you can't touch the gas. And it's a beautiful racetrack. It's very demanding for the drivers. Anywhere that's real technical and little things matter, I like. I love Lernerville. It gets slick as you can imagine any racetrack ever could be, and they've got the LM tire rule. That's one thing that I see, when you talk about the tire rule at I-80. I like that. I think it's a good thing. I think a lot of people might be misinformed or don't really know where I stand on tire rules, but there's so many things that I'd like to get out of my mind. And when you have, even if it's just a construction rule, the LM tire rule, it's a good thing. Right now in open comp racing, I've kept up with tires and analyzed tires probably more than the 95% of anyone in racing. It's still a lot for me to keep up with, and you still have so many potential decisions that you make wrong just from construction, and that's what I kind of hope for. Things getting lined out a little more. But anytime you have competition with another company, another brand, that's why all that exists. I think that's kind of what's hurt racing a lot, is you get companies competing with each other, and you just keep coming up with more and more different constructions, not necessarily compounds, but constructions.
Like you say, it's not only even with each other, it's within the company they compete against themselves.
Yeah, and it's just when all of a sudden you've got all this inventory, and then they come out with something new that obsoletes it all, but it doesn't necessarily do it everywhere. So you're afraid to get rid of the old because there's still going to be places that prefer it. And it just makes it where when we leave for races, we've got to almost have a shoe-on or a tampon stick to get the door shut with all the tires that are stacked in there. So I think that people are looking at that. I hope, you see around the country, the LM thing is a good thing, that rule. But see, the rule you got at I-80, that doesn't work everywhere, because so many racetracks, that'll promote the one-lane racetrack, because everyone chases the dry. Once it gets black in a certain area, then everybody focuses on that. If it's overwatered and greasy anywhere, you got to stay away from it with a real hard tire. But if you've got people that know how to prep the racetrack and know their racetrack well enough, it works very well at I-80. And there are a number of places that it works well, but there's a whole lot that it doesn't, and it's nothing that you can do as a general rule for everywhere. It will be a lot worse racing.
On the phone with us now, Scott Bloomquist, the Dirt Tracks Dominator, as a part of the Legends of the Dirt series here on the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
NASCAR is bringing the truck series to Eldora. What do you think about NASCAR bringing a dirt race, regardless of what division, to the dirt? And is there a possibility that maybe we could see a Bloomer truck, or maybe Scott Bloomquist in a truck?
I haven't looked into what the potential is to actually have a car built for that. I'm sure their rules and weight rule and everything are so far from what we're doing, and I'm sure the weight rule is considerably higher. And to just jump in and tackle, doing a new car, to do that, it isn't feasible. But I've already been approached, and buy a couple of. I will be there. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I thought I saw.
And it'll be something that whoever I work with, I'll go over and spend some time at their shop and just analyze how much travel the cars have and how much. I did watch a video of the testing that went on there with the trucks. And it looked like the truck, the ones I watched, the trucks had some travel and were moving around enough. And I think they knocked the splitter off and some other things and decided they were just going to eliminate splitters. But, the racetrack condition, and I just need to look a lot more at what they allowed to see what will cross over from our type of racing or our car, basically, and spring packages and shock packages to what actually NASCAR will allow. I know that so many things they won't allow, but I'm sure we're going to be there. And I look at it as something new and exciting, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. That first 100,000 win modified race we went to at Batesville, I never drove a modified before, and went out there and we won that race. And there was 300 and some cars entered in that. So I love new things. And I get up for them probably more than I do just another weekend of racing and what we do. So, anything that's new that I get involved in, it's going to be exciting, and I'm looking forward to it.
I didn't realize that you had driven a modified.
You got to be kidding me!
No,
the first ever race that paid $100,000 to win at Batesville, Arkansas. I've never drove a modified ever.
What do you think of driving a mod versus a late model?
Actually, when I got done tuning on the car, the first night, car just wasn't balanced right. And I went back to the shop. I think I run seventh, or they had multiple nights to get into where you were going to start that event, and the car it wasn't balanced right. And I went back and cut the fuel cell and the battery out of it and moved them and just went to. Well, and did enough things, obviously, because the next night we won. And that started me front center row. Actually, the horsepower to weight to tire width ratio really was much closer than I expected. And it wasn't, I got the car to handle very close to the way I like my stuff to be in a short amount of time. If it wasn't precautions, we'd lap the field. I mean, we were just that good and in a short time. So I think that my radar really goes up when it's something new and the challenge gets even higher. I think that I really show up at another level compared to when I'm just doing the same thing over. But this deal, my first ever race, all-pro race, car wasn't much, and it'd been parked for years, and, we still run second in it. My first time out. So, I really get up for first-time things, and this truck deal, it's obviously going to be first time. So I'm looking forward to it. As long as I've raced, and you've raced 32 years, new challenge is always good.
Is there a number you'd like to leave with any of the listeners in case they'd like to buy a chassis from you, or do you just kind of keep that number back to where you don't want to put out? You understand what I'm saying? Some people want to be contacted and some don't. There might be a listener that you don't want to have the number.
Yeah, I don't mind people having my number for the shop here. It's 423-921-9739. And as soon as I get in saying that number, what I want to express and emphasize is I do not want anyone to call here with any questions about anything. Other than
buying a car.
Do you have
an interview,
whether or not I might have a used car sell, or if they're interested in anything new, we're behind enough in that area, but I don't do but a couple of new ones a year. And I've got a couple of used, and I try to keep a handle on anyone that has had our cars or still has them that's considering selling a used car. Jimmy Owens just won this last event at Phoenix City, and the car's 8 years old. That's why I take them on trade. And if someone's interested in a used car, they can call, and I generally then just say they need to schedule coming to the shop and discussing it. I don't talk on the phone a lot. Other than things like this, but I don't talk business on the phone a lot. So if somebody were to call, I usually get their name and learn a little about them, then do some research on who they are and who they're associated with. And I try to, there's a lot of people that try to get a hold of a car to start a business and jig and start copying. And And I've been able to get a pretty good handle on who those people are over the years and keep them at bay. I'm not that insecure like I used to be about it, because if you're copying something, you really don't know what you're doing. And a copy's never like an original. And there's so many things that we do here, including the materials we use and the process we put them together, that I'm not insecure about somebody trying to copy stuff, but I just don't like it being out there. So I try to keep a handle on that. But yeah, I don't mind anyone calling, that's looking into the future, or as somebody that their son. One of the rules I have is I don't generally like to deal with owners that are hiring drivers, because you can get a revolving door of drivers. I like dealing with families, and if someone's father thinks their son has a lot of potential, this place is worth investing in, because I can take 10 or 15 years off your learning curve. And I do try to not just tell you what to do. I try to teach you why you're doing it. Anyone that's dealt with me and worked with us at the shop here has seen that, and they usually get a good education and actually either open themselves up to get employed somewhere or have some good opportunities in the future.
Part 3 of our Legends of the Dirt Series conversation with Scott Bloomquist is just around the corner. It's the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
This is Andrew from Kosiski Auto Parts. Kosiski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Kosiski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kosiski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kosiski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
The Silver Dollar Nationals are returning to I-80 Speedway on July 18th, 19th, and 20th. Don't miss the nation's top USMTS, MLRA, and Lucas Oil dirt late model racers as they compete at Nebraska's fastest track. Come watch the nation's best dirt track racers compete for a $27,000 to win payout. Ticket prices and packages at 402-342-3453. The third annual Silver Dollar Nationals at I-80 Speedway, July 18th, 19th, and 20th.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
This is the Front Stretch on AM 590, powered by Kosiski Auto Parts. Quality used parts at an affordable price. Now, back to the Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, presented by Kosiski Auto Parts, 51st and I Street in Omaha. 731-4592 is the number you need to know to get your car or truck back on the road with quality used parts at an affordable price. We continue our conversation with Scott Bloomquist as a part of the Legends of the Dirt series. Scott, talk about your career and how much longer we're going to expect to see you racing. Are you working on transitioning your way out, or are we still going to see you slinging dirt for several more years?
Yeah, it's going to be a while. We're going to be around for a while. Whether or not we're traveling a tour, that's going to be the thing probably that it will stop way before we stop racing. I still have too big of a passion for big events, and whether it's 12 or 20 shows a year and spend the rest of my time testing and working on new things for our chassis, for the people that want to go out and beat the highways up, like we're going to continue to do right now. But that's probably going to be quite some time before we even consider pulling the plug. That's almost where you led me when you said, what do I think when there's 4 Bloomquist cars finish in front of me? It's an answer I've given to people. When do you know it's time to quit? Well, when there's 6 or 8 cars in mine and I seem to run 8 every week, that's pretty much a pretty good signal to me that I've been involved in teaching and helping people, and in whatever amount of time I've done that with them, they consistently just finish in front of me. It's obvious that I need to start taking a look at myself, but I think it's not going to be, physically, I've got a couple of problems. I've got a left rotacuff that's torn and a right shoulder muscle ripped, and when the tracks are rough, I can really feel it afterwards, and I know I need surgery on both of them, but I just can't figure out when I can give up 4 to 5 months of my life.
Jeez.
And I can deal with the pain and and dread real rough, nasty racetracks, but I can suck it up and still get with it. But I still know that needs to happen sometime, and hopefully, there won't be any more damage done anytime soon. That will keep me from being able to continue racing like I am.
Is that a nagging issue, or is this something that's getting worse throughout the years?
The right shoulder was first, and I couldn't reach up and pick a glass up out of the cabinet to get something to drink with it. And then when the left rotor cuff happened, same thing. Couldn't pick my arm up high enough to get a glass out of the cabinet. And just the weight of a glass or anything heavy, couldn't do it. Well, got a steroid shot. This is about a year and a half apart, but got a steroid shot. And they said, well, if you got to come back every 6 months. After getting the first one in the right shoulder, I haven't had to go back. And after getting the next one in the left shoulder for the rotor cuff, I haven't had to go back. And I put up with it. But after running long races, especially rough racetracks, I really can feel it. And I just always hope like hell I don't end up at another place the next week that ends up getting like that, because it seems to heal back and not bother me. And I can swim. I can put both hands straight up in the air, and I can even pick up weights with them now. But I know the potential exists. They're both damaged enough, and they've told me they're not going to repair themselves. So I just hope I don't get in too many conditions to damage them worse.
Besides having a whole schedule, when's your first race, or where's it going to be at in 2013? You going down south to Florida, or where are you going to be at first race 2013?
Well, as of right now, it'll be Tampa. I haven't really seen anything else or heard of anything else that's going to be significant enough for us to get out earlier than that. But if something were to come up, or whether, I don't know, if Brunswick or if there might be some other racetracks that are contemplating or going to put something together. But as of now, I'm planning on going to Tampa, starting there, and then going on to Volusia for that week with the UMP and the Outlaws, and doing those 2 weeks. I've heard there's a big event on Sunday between those 2 weeks of racing at Ocala, paying like $20,000 to win. Unless there's some kind of rules with that you got to be there prior to Sunday to get qualified for the event. If we can roll in and run that one on Sunday between the events, we may try to run that one also. So, as of now, that's it. I've got so much to do that I think that's soon enough.
What do you think's going on with the World Outlaw guys not coming over to the Lucas Oil special events? It doesn't seem like. And do you think there's a problem there? What kind of situation you think's going on in that World Outlaw late model guys just don't want to compete with the Lucas Oil late model guys? It doesn't seem like.
Well, you're asking me to answer something that's an opinion of mine that I'd say would stir a lot of.
That's good. We like to hear opinions.
Feel free to stir, Scott.
The thing about that, you really can just sit back and look at it from a practical standpoint. And obviously, everybody knows Lanigan ain't a fan of mine, which feeling's mutual. So let's just go ahead and pick him. For him to live that close to Florence Speedway, and I'm sure the North-South, and if you have local fans, let's say. I know I have local fans in Tennessee, so surely he's got some up there. And he came to the race early that year that paid $10,000 to win, the Ralph Latham or whatever that, I don't know which, I guess that's what it's called. But anyway, he was there, and he was in the Consi, but to be on a Terror and win 5-6 in a row and win the Cedar Lake race, and then to have that $50,000 to win, however many, 4, 5, 6, 7, who cares if it's 10 miles from your house? I don't know where he lives, but I just know he lives real close. And to not show up at that event, and it's not just me saying this, it's kind of a buzz going around the pits. Everybody's like, well, what the heck's going on with that? And, I think everyone still hears a lot about tire prep, and it's such a bad deal in our sport because there's really no one gets to truly know. We don't get samples ourselves that we can send off and have somebody checked. All these guys in series they might take samples. They might say they send them off, but they don't show the results. They don't really, and if they do show, just such a gray area but I just could not understand how you could live that close and that be the place that you kind of came up and raced, and then just not show up for 50,000. I mean, it had been easy for me and Jimmy Owens, long way to Cedar Lake, and it had been an easy call to not go there. But when it's that close to your home and you just elect to not go, and especially, when you're hot, man. You have to make hay while the sun's shining, right?
Yeah, bet.
No, don't, but not go. It kind of sent out something that, and whether it was anything to it or not, but it sure sent out a message, and it sure was talked a lot about to other competitors in the pits about just could not believe, and I've seen enough things. I've been around way too long, and I hate to just point at or say, but when the whole field hot laps at Cedar Lake and everybody's, anyone competitive is within a 2:10 bracket, and then one guy goes out and he's a half second faster than everybody, and there ain't a shock, there ain't a spring, there ain't a proper, it can happen with tires. And we've got to have faith that the series is doing that. I feel like I probably get scrutinized a little bit, or probably they want to check me even harder. I feel like there's been some things happen in the past that weren't really just, but overall, I'm willing to go anyway, and I just can't imagine why he would not have gone to that race. And I don't know if anyone's asked him, and I don't think there's a family vacation or I don't know I still don't know the reason why, but it sure doesn't add up to me.
Well, a lot of the listeners here on this channel went to the Knoxville Nationals, and that was kind of a buzz that came back from Knoxville is where was all the World Outlaw late model drivers? If I remember right, it was only Tim McCready that was in the top 10 in the World Outlaw Nationals. That was at the Iowa Nationals, over there at the Knoxville Nationals. Yeah,
and I think that, when you get in your world of things and you might be getting by with doing things to your tires, and you might, and you've got everything prepared, and you're just kind of in your own world of things, and to step out of the box, kind of like coming to I-80, Heck, we all stepped out of the box to come there and run that tire. We weren't insecure about it. We just were all ready to accept that and do it. The Lucas tire rule is the same, basically, so close to what they go by, other than you can't run the softer compounds, which if you put them on at Florence, you'd be slower anyway. So there's no reason I can see, other than a couple, why you wouldn't be there. And Rick Eckert was there. He even commented, "We'll see how he runs when he comes here." And I think everyone knows that Richie Lewis with the series that might go a level farther with checking things. And we all hear rumors, and rumors are rumors, but sometimes rumors have warrant. I've just been learning a lot in the last 6 weeks to 2 months, and I do see the potential does exist, even for there to be things out there now that cannot be detected if you're not looking, or if you're not really into trying to catch somebody. And there's a lot of comments that people make. I've even joked around a little bit, saying, I just need to put Lucas bigger across my car. So it's like, get thrown out of the Lucas theory. You don't get thrown out of that if Lucas is big enough, right?
I wouldn't think so.
Well, it's common sense, right? He wouldn't want to rock the boat, and neither would with anything. It's just anytime you get a lot of rules, the politics of things start coming into play, and nobody wants to go to court. That's why I didn't continue with my deal with the Outlaws. I didn't feel it was going to be a problem, but I don't have the time. I actually felt like I had everything I needed to pursue it. And if I did pursue it, what would I ask for? And if it ended up being something where I asked for settlement for whatever went on, and let's say that they couldn't even afford it and the World Outlaws were done. That's not what I want to be remembered for. So there's so many politics and so many things that come into these decisions. It's easy. There's so many things that people can read if they really want to get on the internet and read about tire prep and read about the things that are detectable and not detectable. And when you get down to using sniffers and things, and that's a joke in itself. And I try to educate myself as far as anyone can with the resources that I have, and I know that there's a long way to go here, and there's a lot still needs to be done, or they need to just throw their hands up, one of the two, because I'm really about to get tired of no one I'm racing against stuff. And there's no more edge that you can get, because you got to realize that that's the last thing to hit the ground, and everything on top of your tires is just if somebody has something on their tires that can be 3 to 5 tenths, and especially on restarts, that's where we see it. And I have people timing every lap, and I try to keep up with every lap, and I know where this stuff shows up, and all of a sudden a guy will fire off and get racing, and he's just hanging. But then the caution comes out, and everybody refires pretty much, or not everybody, but the majority refire pretty consistent, and you get 1 or 2 guys after the caution are 3 to 4 tenths faster than everybody else. And you don't have to be a genius to figure out what's going on, but we got our hands tied because we're not in control. And at times I think that we almost need to have a court-appointed representative, that the top so many guys in a series have a person there that's paid, and whether we pay him or whoever pays them, the court says they get a sample and they send it off, and we get absolutely reality. Then see how that compares to the series, because it's just too easy to decide what the gray area is for the week.
Scott, we told you we would only take about 20 to 25 minutes of your time, and we've taken an hour of it. We greatly appreciate your patience in answering all of our questions, and it's been an honor talking to you. Do you have any, maybe final thoughts?
Don't call me back for a year, and we'll get even.
Well, we want to talk to you before the I-80 race when you're coming up this way to race, Scott.
Sure, be glad to. Again, I really enjoyed coming out there. Didn't know what I was going to get into, and when I pulled in and saw the racetrack, I thought, yeah. But until we raced on it, and after that whole experience out there, we're looking forward to coming back. And
Scott,
again, our rule worked great there.
Scott, when you were
pay more money.
When you were at I-80 this year for the Silver Dollar Nationals, do you remember that goofy-looking character that was walking around with a black helmet, and you autographed that black helmet?
Yeah.
That was actually me.
I love this. Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, I recognize.
We bailed him out of jail a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, sounds like you all are having a good time. And
well, that's about the only way we know how to do it, is to make sure we're having a good time. Scott, thank you so much for sitting down with us. We greatly appreciate your time, and we can't wait to see you in 2013.
You guys have a good evening.
You too. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Again, Scott Bloomquist as a part of the Legends of the Dirt series. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of The Front Stretch. We greatly appreciate it. Next weekend, we're going to have Joe Kosiski and Steve Kosiski sit down and talk to us about their time as dirt track drivers. Also, we're going to sit down with US 30 Speedway and Thunder Hill and talk about their off seasons and anything they got going on in 2013. Thanks again for joining us on The Front Stretch, presented by Kosiski Auto Parts on AM 590 Omaha's ESPN Radio.
The Silver Dollar Nationals are returning to I-80 Speedway on July 18th, 19th, and 20th. Don't miss the nation's top USMTS, MLRA, and Lucas Oil dirt late model racers as they compete at Nebraska's fastest track. Come watch the nation's best dirt track racers compete for a $27,000 to win payout. Ticket prices and packages at 402-342-3453. The third annual Silver Dollar Nationals at I-80 Speedway, July 18th, 19th, and 20th.
This is Andrew from Kosiski Auto Parts. Kosiski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke-down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Kosiski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kosiski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kosiski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.